Hey, thanks. Well, the topic today is about financial discipline, financial preparedness. What do y'all think about the state of our economy here in the United States nowadays? How is it? Not good. How come? What do you hear?
We're dead. We owe everybody money.
Dead? Owe everybody money?
Inflation.
Inflation? Starting to heat up a little bit, maybe? Yeah? Anything else? We owe lots of money, don't we? How much do we owe as a nation?
$14 trillion.
Yeah, a year or two ago it was 14 trillion.
Now it's more.
Yeah. Yeah. 16 trillion and counting. You can, there's a little website that tracks the national debt. You won't believe how fast the dollars add up. 16 trillion and counting. Projected deficit for this year, another $1 trillion. Okay? So is our economy stable?
No.
Is that how you would describe it?
No.
Okay? I'd agree with that assessment. Tough times, now, our economy is rebounding a little bit. There's been some steady growth and seems to be perhaps stabilizing. Yet at the same time, there are things coming over the horizon that could torpedo that recovery, shall we say. You've heard some headlines about the Affordable Care Act and perhaps its implementation. And you probably haven't seen quite as many headlines on how that will impact you, but trust me, it will impact you greatly. Well, topic for today then is, even during what we could consider to be quite uncertain times, how do you protect yourself and your family? How do you bring stability into your life, particularly in the financial realm of your life? So I'm going to start off with the most important things that you should do. I picked 5 of them. There might be 100. Some would argue that maybe these aren't the most important 5, but they are 5, what I feel are very important points of things that you should do to secure your financial future. And there are some who would say, and I agree with them, that inasmuch as your financial state is secure, it will influence every other area of your life. Your interpersonal relationships, your job performance, your overall happiness. Okay? If that financial picture is secure. Doesn't mean you have to be wealthy, but if you are secure. First thing, pay yourself first. What does that mean? Any thoughts? Pay yourself first.
Always set money aside for yourself.
Set money aside for yourself. Well, how do you do that? What about the guy who provides you with natural gas? What about your house payment? What about all those types of payments? Shouldn't you pay them first?
I don't know, my dad always tells me to put 10% of every paycheck away. So I do that, and so then when I need the money, it's there, so I can end up going to college or buying myself something nice.
Put 10% away. That's a real good idea. Real good idea. 10% of everything you make, you should put away. More, that's a good start. More if you can. And why do we say pay yourself first? What happens if you don't pay yourself first? This is an unofficial economic principle, the consumption function. You will spend, you, me, everyone, will spend every dime you can get your paws on. Every dime. Okay? It's a fact that your expenses will grow to meet the cash available. What happens if you go on a trip, you go uptown, and you have $50 in your pocket, are you more inclined or less inclined to spend? Yeah, I got $50. This is burning a hole in my pocket. I'm going to do something with it. So you need to pay yourself first, because if you don't pay yourself first, if you don't take that money out of your budget, you'll end up spending it. And then you need to tailor the rest of your budget to live on what is remaining. So pay yourself first. Every time, starting now, every paycheck you ever earn the rest of your life. Okay? That's number one. Number two, live within your means. Live within your means. That seems like a fairly simple principle. How would you define that statement, living within your means? How would you describe that?
Don't spend more than you have.
Don't spend more than you have. Does that seem like that's a difficult proposition? Should that be difficult? You wouldn't think. You have $100, only spend $100. Actually, only spend 90 because you put 10 away, right? It shouldn't be that tough. Yet, what is the situation in our nation as a whole, and with most individuals in our nation? Do we live within our means? We're not. We're not. We are constantly spending more than we have. When you spend more than you have, what happens? You get into debt. You get into debt. And once you get into debt, that's a big hole to dig out of. And so living within your means, it's as simple as saying no. I'd really like to have that, but I don't have the $100, so I can't buy it this month. Maybe not next month, maybe not ever, and you won't be any worse for the wear and tear. We are a consumer society, aren't we? We buy and buy and buy and buy. You know, we went into that recession about 5 years ago. Bad things were happening. And statements by our national leaders at the time was, you know, it's your patriotic duty to get out there and spend. Well, yeah, that would probably help us dig out of a recession. But I would venture a statement that your patriotic duty is to take care of yourself financially so that you don't become a burden on society. That's your highest patriotic duty. Okay? Live within your means. Simple principle, difficult to implement because we have a hard time distinguishing between our needs and our wants. You got to figure that out. You got to set your priorities. Whatever you do, live within your means. Third one, and you might think I'm going senile and repeating myself, but before you make that judgment, let me explain. Third one is avoid debt like the plague. Avoiding debt. How is that different from number 2, living within your means? Any thoughts? How is that different? They're kind of related, aren't they? We know what debt is. What's debt?
When you owe money.
When you owe money, okay? When you have borrowed money from someone in order to purchase something, okay? How is that different from the second thing we talked about?
Because you could pay off the bill for debt or the loan in increments.
Okay.
Which could still be in your means.
Very good. Exactly right. Exactly right. You can go buy the car and take out a loan for that. You can buy your furniture, take out a loan for that. You can buy that TV. You know, matter of fact, this is a very nice size for a TV. You can buy that TV, finance it over 5 years. Can't you? You can go finance 100 things, go into debt on each of them, and be theoretically living within your means because you are able to make those minimum payments on each of those forms of debt each month. As long as your job is steady, as long as you don't get a reduction in hours, as long as you don't have a financial emergency at home, the washing machine dies, the dryer dies, the car breaks down, as long as there's not a blip on the horizon, you might be living within your means. Okay? The sad part is when you go in debt, what is the cost of being in debt? What do we call that? Interest. And when you go in debt buying this big screen TV, what kind of interest rate are you paying? Anybody know?
Compound.
It will compound every month. Okay? What kind of interest rate are you paying? Anybody know? When you buy something on a consumer loan like that, you will pay double digits, in the teens. Okay? That's a pretty high interest rate. Particularly when if you look at your savings account right now, anybody have money in a savings account? How much interest are you earning on that, brother?
No, not much, 30%.
Yeah. Well, you're earning actually about 1/10 of 1%. Not 10%, but 0.001. If you have a generous banker, you might be earning 1/4%. Here in the school district, we have a couple accounts with this outfit that's back east, and anyways, altogether we have $5 or $6 million in there, and in 1 month we earn $250 worth of interest. Interest rates are 0 when you are investing right now, but when you are paying 15% plus or minus. So that's the trade-off. And credit cards are even worse. They're in the 20s, a lot of them. So you might be living within your means, but in all these payments, you are paying through the nose. You're paying out interest through the nose for something you could have lived without, and you are squandering your resources. Avoid debt like the plague. Some of you, many of you, hopefully all of you, will be attending some sort of further education. College, university, trade school, something to hone your skills. How do you feel about college debt? Student loan, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that a necessary thing, or is that something that just happened? Okay? Some of you may have to do that. I won't weigh in on judgment, but I can tell you, if you go to school in the great state of Wyoming and you incur a student loan, I think you're a fool. With the scholarships we have available and the work that is available, 0 scholarships with the affordable tuition that we have. Work 20 hours a week while you're going to school, 40, 50, 60 hours a week during the summer, you can graduate debt-free. Any one of you going to the public schools here in the state of Wyoming, debt-free. Yet we see so many people that graduate with $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of debt. And you know how they incurred that debt? It wasn't on tuition. It was on living high. It was on living high while they were going to school. They hit the bars, dropped a bunch of money 3 times a week. On the weekends, more. Spring break, 4 years in a row, dropped $1,000, $2,000. Just that adds up to $10,000 worth of debt. Didn't need to do any of those things. So avoid debt of any and all types like the plague. Now, having said that, you know, some debt is frankly unavoidable. there's not many of us that have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to spend on a house. Any of you have that kind of money to buy a house with? Probably going to have to go into debt to some degree to buy a house. Depending on the car you buy, you might need some debt to buy a car. But even in those things, live within your means. You don't need a $50,000 car financed over 7 years. You know what? A $10,000 car financed over 36 months or 24 months or 12 months, better yet, will get you around just as nice as that $50,000 ride. Okay? Live within your means. Avoid debt like the plague. It'll kill you. It'll kill you. Okay, next. We talked about going into debt, and this next one tags right along with that. Any of you have a credit card yet? Bunch of seniors in here, right? Been getting some of those credit card applications in the mail? Free money, right? Any of you got any of those? Anybody have a credit card? Go ahead, raise your hand. No? Mr. McGee has one. He has several. I have several. You got one? Okay. I like credit cards. They are very convenient. Matter of fact, I'm going on a little trip here pretty quick. If you travel, you can't hardly travel without a credit card anymore. You can't rent a hotel room without a credit card. You can't buy a plane ticket without a credit card. So they're just handy as all get out. If you know how to use them correctly. They are a lethal weapon used against you if you use them incorrectly. Okay? And it's easy to use them correctly. 2 principles. 1, don't buy anything with a credit card that you wouldn't buy if you didn't have that credit card. If you're going to buy it with a credit card, you better already have the money in the bank. Okay? And if your thought process is, I don't quite have the cash to cover this, but I'll put it on my credit card and I'll catch up with it later, what should be your next thought? Never mind. Don't buy it. It's simple as that. Don't buy it. Live without it. Figure it out. Okay? You talked about consumer loans, 15%. Credit cards, 20% plus or minus. Okay? So first, if you don't already have the cash in your wallet, in your bank account to cover that purchase, don't do it. Second, when you use your credit cards, pay them off in full every month without exception, period, exclamation point. Average credit card debt in our nation today is on the neighborhood of $7,000 to $10,000 that people have out on credit cards that they're paying 20% interest on. A credit card will kill you if you don't use it correctly. It's a very nice convenience used correctly. Those 2 principles will keep you safe. And if you start carrying a balance on your credit card, might I suggest that you do what, Mr. Frederick?
Cut it.
Cut it up and don't use it. Throw it away. Get it paid off, and then after you've learned to control yourself for a year, maybe you could venture back in. But if you don't pay it off, cut it up, don't use it. Okay, next one. Remember, always remember, there is a late relationship between the return you receive on an investment and the risk, the corresponding risk of that investment. Somebody translate that into English for me?
You might lose money instead of making money.
Okay. What is the return?
That's what you get back.
That's the proceeds, the interest revenue, the increase in your investment. That's what you get back. The risk is the chance, the possibility that you lose what you invested to begin with. There is a direct relationship. As the estimated risk increases, the possibility that you will lose your investment also increases. That is an absolute rule. If you hear someone say, and you will have this over the course of your life, someone will come up to you and say, Michaela, got a great deal for you. You invest $10,000 with me. That's all I need is $10,000. And I can promise you a 40% return each year. 40% return. That means at the end of the first year, that $10,000 will turn into $14,000. At the end of the second year, that $10,000 will turn into what? About roughly 18.5. You'll double your money in less than 3 years. Sweet deal, huh? So what do you say, sister? You got $10,000 you want to invest with me? And if you have more, in 3 years, we can pay off your college education and get you started in a nice house. You'll have a down payment for it. This is a guaranteed deal. I'm in it myself. I got family in it. This is the best thing going. You know me. You know, we've been friends for a long time. What do you think? Yeah?
Say no.
Huh? 40%. 40%. Where are you going to get that? You put your money in the bank, you're getting that. That's all you're getting, nothing. If you put your money in the bank, at the end, bank. At the end of the first year when you put your money in the bank, you will start out with $10,000. At the end of the first year, you will have $10,010. 4,000 or 10, your choice. And I also got to tell you, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. We got to get this deal done today, or I can't help you out. And I really want to help you out. You kidding? We're friends. I'm trying to help you. $4,000 versus $10.
So
You
all
with
that
me?
money that you put in, like,
You got money? All right, you're out of the deal.
No.
You're out. You're out. Well, I'm talking with her. I'm helping you out now.
So you were talking about the risk. So if she takes the deal and says, "Okay, I'll do
No, this
that,"
is practically guaranteed.
Well,
This
then
is-
practically, but it's not 100% guaranteed.
This is,
Because so she can still.
okay,
make
now,
money.
you all will get a pitch like that for something or other. And it'll be do it today or it doesn't happen at all. And what the guy is telling you, what that person, could be a female, is telling you, is that if you will give me $10,000, then I will have your $10,000. And you may not have any. Okay? Risk versus return. And if they guarantee you a high rate of return, if they guarantee you, they are lying. They are lying. And you turn around and walk away. Okay? There's no such thing as a guaranteed high rate of return, period. No such thing. If you remember that, it will help you avoid many stumbling stones. Where are we at time-wise? 10 minutes. Okay. Some don'ts. And some of these don'ts correspond with some do's. Number one, folks, do not expect anyone or anything to take care of you. Anyone or anything, that anything primarily being the federal government or the state government. It's not going to happen. Federal government is relatively unstable, has problems meeting their debt. We are running a 40% deficit. For every dollar the federal government spends, 40 cents of that dollar goes into debt. You think it's pretty cool that they're dropping $100 million investing in Wyoming? Well, that is kind of cool, except 40 million of that is going into debt. Nobody's taking care of you. If you don't take care of yourself, no one else will. Simple as that. Simple as that. So plan and prepare. Second, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. That's an old wives' tale, an old homily, isn't it? What does that mean? Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
In this case, it's meaning don't put all your money in one investment.
Sure. Sure. Any of you ever hear of Enron?
Yeah.
What happened in Enron?
Wasn't it like a stock that crashed like really bad?
Yeah, it was a big company. They were involved in energy trading and speculation. And they went from very small to very big rapidly. Employed thousands and thousands of people, and all those thousands and thousands of people had all their retirement invested in Enron stock. And they made a ton of money because the price of that, value of that stock went from dollars to hundreds of dollars. Everybody in that company was wealthy. And then the party came apart. Overnight, Enron disappeared, took several well-established businesses with them. Those people's retirement went from $1 million to practically nothing overnight. Literally overnight. They had all their eggs, including their employment, in the Enron basket, and the basket dropped. All the eggs broke. Don't put all your eggs. Diversify. There are many things you can invest in. That's a topic for a different day. But don't put all your eggs in one basket, regardless of what that situation is. Next one. Hitting this one again just because it is so important, and you might think I'm just repeating myself, but do not carry a balance on your credit card. That one thing, it makes both lists because it is so important and impacts so many people in our nation. Do not carry a balance on your credit card. When you get a credit card, and you all will, and you buy something on it, and you get your first statement, and it says you can either pay $350 to pay off in full, or you can make a minimum monthly payment of $7.50. And it'll be something like that. And what are you going to do? Yes. And if you are tempted to only pay the $7.50 minimum payment, what I want you to hear in your mind is that remember that old bald guy that came and talked to our class? He said, if I only paid that $7.50, that I am stupid. Okay? If you only make the minimum payment, I'm putting you in that category, and that's a little bit of a harsh word, okay? But will you remember that? Making minimum payments on credit cards is very stupid behavior. Okay? Don't be stupid. Next one. Don't assume that things are going to work out for you financially. That, you know, if you just go along without a plan, without any forethought, I'm going to be okay. Because the government's going to take care of me. I'm probably going to get a big inheritance. It's just going to be fine. Don't assume that. If you don't plan and prepare and execute your plan, you're going to end up dependent on an unstable government resource to support you, and you won't like your lifestyle. Okay? And then the fifth one on the don't side is when you do invest, don't invest on emotion. Do not make financial decisions of any type based on your emotion. Because your emotion will nearly every time lead you astray when it comes to financial decisions. There's an old financial adage in relation to investing in the stock market that says, when blood is running in the streets, it's time to buy. Very counterintuitive. When the stock market crashes, what does everybody want to do? You want to get away from it. You want to sell all the stock that you have and get out of it, go to a safe haven. And the reality is, when that happens, when the stock market crashes, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you want to buy. If you want to be a successful investor in relation to the stock market, just don't do what everybody else is doing. And you'll actually do pretty well. Don't make financial decisions, whether it's buying a car. Oh, that car is so nice. Oh, that new car smell, you gotta love that. We gotta have this car. That's why the car salesman wants you to take a test drive, because it gets your emotions tied up in that decision. Don't make financial decisions based on emotion. Okay. Then just a few other good ideas. Where are we at? 5 minutes?
For Q&A.
Okay. Here's a few other just thoughts. Maybe not quite as important as those things, but good things to think about. One, talking about money this morning, but the amount of money you have will not determine your happiness. Will not determine your happiness. Your happiness is independent of the amount of financial resources you have, providing, of course, that you have sufficient to provide the basics of life. Each of you need to determine your definition of success. Is the only way to be successful to have $1 million in the bank? I think not. Would it be nice to have a bunch of money in the bank? Oh, sure. Will not make you any happier. What is your definition of success? Is it to live in a big city, drive a fancy car? You need to figure out, it's different for each of us. But you need to determine what your definition of success is and then work towards that. As you work towards that, another good point, don't ever forget to develop yourself. That will help you along your way towards financial success, towards employment success, towards success in your home and family, which is the most important success. Develop yourself. Sharpen your skills. Be a lifelong learner. Have you ever heard Mr. McGee say that? That is critically important. You know what? The formal education that you get is a fraction of the education you should experience over the course of your life. You should learn something every day. If you're not learning, you're dying. Okay? Develop yourself. Very important. Learn new skills. Make yourself marketable. Track your net worth. What's a net worth? You got it. Yeah. You know what a net worth is? Is that something you eat? What's net worth? Mr. Frederick, help him out.
Oh man, isn't that like your total income minus your, I want to say assets?
Pretty darn close. That's what you are worth. Everything you own, and subtract from that everything you owe, and that's your net worth. Well, you know what? If you want to be financially stable, you need to know what that number is. And you need to work on that number, and you need to plan to grow that number. If you bought a house worth $100,000, you owe $98,000 this year, and next year you only owe $95,000 on it, your net worth has increased by $3,000. So know what that is. Identity theft, you hear about that all the time, right? Got to protect yourself, folks. That's the biggest crime going in the nation today. Be wise. Don't throw away important documents without shredding them. Don't let debit cards out of your sight. You go to a restaurant, don't let your debit card out of your sight. Just don't do it.